Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.23. Do you have one of those techniques out there that you just avoid at all costs? Like it's just a little too intimidating for you, or you've tried it and it just never worked out well, so you just don't ever do it anymore. And this is one of those techniques for me. Dragging the pick through the glass has never been easy for me. I have a shake, I have this tremor, and I'm always kind of really heavy-handed, and I always feel like I'm just like gouging, these big trenches through the glass and not being able to recover from it. And so I never really use this technique. So today I'm going to try to overcome and really take a deep dive into this technique and make it work for me. I hope you all enjoy. And on that note, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I will see you next time in the dungeon. All right, I'm going to start out by taking the first couple minutes of this demo to make a nice variety of stringers. And I'm using mainly greens today, a little bit of yellow. But what I want is my stringers to go from light to dark. And each stringer that I make is going to be two-toned. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a color, and then I will add a little bit of the color next to it, lighter or darker. And I'll just add a little bit to two sides of it. Heat it up and just go ahead and pull out a nice stringer. And I will do this with every single color. So I'll probably end up with, maybe 12 to 14 stringers of different colors. And they will all cascade from a dark green to the lightest green. So I hope that you kind of understand my method here of pulling these different color stringers. You definitely want to go from a light to a dark. So the second one here is the more of a lighter green, and you see I've already pulled several in the corner up there. And this lighter green, I'm going to start by adding the dark green, and then I'll pull another one with the lighter green. These are a lot of fun to make. They go by very quickly. I probably spent maybe about 20 minutes making these stringers before I started this bead. And here is my final, or one of my final stringers. When you add yellow to a green, it can create a third color. It can create like a kind of a brown color. And that's what happened with these with this one. And I think in the end it looked really nice to have that extra color in there. Okay, so here are all of my stringers so far. And yeah, let's go ahead and make this bead. Oh yes, I also am going to be using the Wide Crunch No. 2 Bead Press. I just had to check real quick, but that is a Catwalk bead press, and they have an amazing variety of presses on their website. It's called Catwalk Tools. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start this bead out with just the light color green. It really doesn't matter because we're going to be adding a whole bunch of colors on top of this. I just wanted to have a nice base color to use. So I'm going to add about an inch and a half of glass, maybe a little bit more. I want this to be a nice long bead because in this bead press, it just creates a beautiful, nice, thin shape. So I want it nice and long. And the first thing I'll do is go ahead and heat everything up and just start to roll it out so I have a nice smooth surface to work off of and my edges are nice and straight. And then what I want to do is make my starting pattern, and it's going to go from a dark green to a light green, back to a dark green again. So we are going to have a nice cascade of green here. So I'll add about 2 layers or 2 wraps of each one of these shades of green. I have that dark, I think it's petroleum green, but I'm not 100% sure. And then I'm using this secondary green, which is a grasshopper green. And the lightest green I'll use here is, I believe, the Marmo Verde. And I'll just add a little bit of that to the center. And that undercolor will show up a little bit, and it'll look, sorry about that. It'll look, that was my phone. It'll look really nice with the undercolors coming in as also more very thin lines. So, you know, this is a very linear design, and everything should work out really nice when you start adding all the stringers. But before we do that, I want to finish adding my glass here. I'm almost done. I just have this darker green shade at the end to do. And then we'll start to just heat and melt everything in. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you are also maintaining heat in the rest of your bead so it doesn't break. Now, when I heat this up, it definitely, to me, it looks completely sloppy. But I'm not worried about it because I know that when I start to roll this out, everything will come together. So what I'm going to do first is just very gently roll out the highest points. And it probably takes about 5 or 6 minutes to get this back into a nice smooth shape again. Definitely take your time. Don't rush anything when you're trying to melt all of these discs down into a nice pattern. Almost done here. A little bit more on that edge. I definitely like to heat the whole thing and then I'll work on my edges. So here I am working on my edges. This looks great. And now what I want to do is start adding my stringers. And I'll start with the lightest stringers in the middle, and I'll work my way out to the edges, going into the darker colors. This is a really fun design. I love adding these stringers here. The best part about it is it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what I love about this. You know, even if your stringers break as you're adding them, just continue to do your best to coil them up around your base bead. I'm going to add a little bit more on top of these so I don't get that kind of darker green coming up from the center. I want this middle part to be the lightest part. And then I'll start to work in a little bit of the yellowish green. Trying to see what I want to do next, and I'm just trying to find colors that are getting a little darker and a little darker to continue adding to the bead here. Okay, we got a few more to go. And when I add these, actually this is a really good practice for adding and working with stringers. But when I'm adding these stringers, you know, I'm only heating the very edge of the stringer. As soon as the stringer starts moving, you're in like the sweet spot. You don't want to go any deeper into the flame. Okay, I definitely want to get my edges here. All right, and that's it. That's all we're going to do here with the stringers. I'm going to push those out of the way and just work on melting all of these in now. And like before, this, you know, every time you do it, the next step, it takes several minutes. You know, this probably took about 5 or 6 minutes to get everything ready to go into the press. That's where we're going next. So I want to make sure my edges are nice and smooth. So I'll use my knife there. And because this bead press has nice straight sides, I want to make sure that the sides of my bead are also nice and straight and it's not bowing out in the center. Okay, so we're just about ready to press this down. I want to get a nice full heat on my bead. It doesn't have to be sagging or anything. You just need to get the whole thing as hot as you can without it getting too hot. And I'll give it a nice hard press. And when I use this bead press, I always notice that I like to reheat the edges and kind of press the edges out a little bit more. All right, and there we have this really beautiful bead. I love the way this looks. Okay, now for the scary part. So what I'm gonna do is I have my tungsten pick, and I'm gonna really superheat just in certain spots. And then I will bring it down and just run my pick through the glass where I want everything to pull. I'm trying to take my time when I do this. And you can go as high or you can draw it out as long as you want to, or you can just do a very small amount. It's amazing, how you can barely move this glass and you will see it in the end. So if you want very short lines, then, you're just moving that pick a little bit. And because it's so hot, for me, it was visually hard to see exactly what was going on as I was picking these. And I think that, is where some of my anxiety lies in this technique, because I can't see what I'm doing when the glass is really red hot like that. I see it after it cools down, but, I'm just kind of crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. But after doing this technique several times, I have noticed that, at least for me, it's gonna look messy. It's gonna look like it's gouged out and there's these deep trenches in it. I don't know if it's just because I'm heavy-handed when I'm drawing into the glass, or if that's normal. If you don't see somebody else making something on the torch, then what do you have to go by? You don't really have anything to go by, just what you're doing. And that's kind of how I feel about this piece right here. So if you are good and well versed at this technique, let me know if if there's a better way to do this. Okay, so anyway, now that I'm done gouging out my glass and drawing it and moving it around, I want to start just very gently melting everything down, because this is the point where I get really nervous and I'm like, God, it looks horrible. Can I fix it? Is there any fixing it at all? I don't know. So what I ended up doing is just very gently heating and smoothing everything out and going back into the press. You notice nothing's rounded out, but when I press and come out, it's like, oh my gosh, there it is, the pattern that I've been looking for and thinking about and thinking I wouldn't get to, and here it is. So I was, extremely happy every time I made one of these to see that, yes, I'm doing this the correct way. Now, if you are working with a different shape bead, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be very gently heating everything and then completely, what am I trying to say? Shape it up again into whatever shape you're going for. And now all I'm doing is just kind of like getting it ready, and we're just about done here. So, okay, I feel better about my anxiety now and about this technique. And I hope you do too. And I hope I'll see you next time in the dungeon.